Hey guys, this is Korda Commando. I wanted to take this time to share with you my favorite rig that is on my line 99% of the time when I'm out there carping. It's called the infamous Ronnie Rig, 360 rig, or spinner rig. You can call it whatever you want here, but I call it the Ronnie Rig, and that's what I'm going to stick with. So let's go ahead and talk about what you need to create the Ronnie Rig. When I do put my Ronnie rigs together, I do it in two parts. So let's talk about the first part, which is going to be the hook link or the actual hook itself. So let's start with what type of hooks we should use. I'm using a curved shank hook. This one specifically is from Gardner, and it's called Continental Mugga hooks. These hooks are amazing. My hookup ratio with fish is almost 100% with this. I never lose fish on these hooks. In addition, the steel they use is just amazing. It's really hard to bend. Secondly, for that hook, I also need to get what we call is a Ronnie Swivel. Ronnie Swivel, the difference between a quick change swivel and a Ronnie Swivel is a simple fact that the Ronnie Swivel will have an opening here where you can slide your hook eye right through. Next thing we need is also we would need hook beads. Hook beads you can buy in different shapes and whatnot. These are some generic hook beads I got from Amazon. Keep in mind, I just keep them in this nice little case to keep it organized. In addition to that, with using a hook bead, you also need a bait screw. Now, folks, you guys can use a fly if you want, or if you wanted to use your hair rig right there. But I'm all about the bait screw. Just call it lazy man fishing. But every time I put a boilie on here, I have no issues losing any of my boilies. And we're going to also go ahead and get some shrink wrap to tie, or actually to ensure that the hook stays on to the Ronnie Swivel. So we'll take a little piece of that and go ahead and put it together. So let's start with the hook. So once again, we'll use the Mugga hook. Got one out here, ready to go. You take your hook link, and then you're going to take your Ronnie Swivel. Now the trick to the Ronnie Swivel is the opposite of where the hook link is. You want to go ahead and slide that through the eye, and before you do that, I should have mentioned, put your little shrink wrap right there. It just makes it easier. So once you do that, you're going to go ahead and connect those two links, and once you do that, go ahead and slide the shrink wrap all the way down. Once you do that, you can steam it, or in this case, we'll just go ahead and light that up. That's what I love about shrink wrap, man. Perfect. So now that hook isn't leaving that Ronnie Swivel at all. So the first part is completed here. Next, I want to make sure I get that bait screw on. So I'm going to grab a bait screw, and we're going to connect that right into the hook. So it's on there. And in order for this bait screw not to come off the hook, we're going to go ahead and put a hook bead on it. Take one of these guys. Actually, it might be easier if I did that. There we go. Take one of these hook beads. A little fidgety. Make sure not to stab yourself. And go ahead and slide that hook bead all the way down. Okay. This is going to stop that bait screw from falling off the hook and losing your fish or getting it sucked right into the carp's mouth. So once again, we'll put it all the way down by the shank area, and there you go. All is needed. Okay. So we've completed the hook part, and now let's talk about the hook link or the leader. So for the hook leader, this is the second part. We're going to need this material. It's a fluorocarbon type of line. I specifically use Korda Boom. I've always had great luck with it. This is the 25-pound Korda Boom with a 0.55 mil. So you would need a 0.6 mil crimp in order to have enough room to slide that through. So typically I would pull out about 22 centimeters of line. So let's go and do that real quick. And I pre-cut this here. So there's about 22 centimeters of line here. Now there's no exact science to that, but 22 centimeters of line roughly fits into my rig box. So we're going to take this and we're going to go ahead and clip the end. And I'll show you why. When I clip the end like this, it just makes it a lot easier to ensure I can get my crimp through. So we're going to go ahead and grab a crimp. Once we do that, we're going to slide that crimp through the double barrel. Yeah, if you guys don't have good eyesight like I don't, this is usually difficult, but hey, we got lucky today. And you're going to go ahead and overlap that right back into that double barrel, creating this loop. And this is where you're going to hook into your hook up to your hook link here. Okay? There's your loop where you can tie down your line or your main line. Okay? I like to make it as small as possible. I like everything streamlined here. So once again, that's about all I need. Next thing you're going to need is a Korda crimp. Now this Korda crimp is created specifically for their Korda crimps. You have the small and the large. The small will fit the 0.6, the large will fit 0.7. We're going to go ahead and line it up with the small at 0.6. Make sure you got a good grip on it. Squeeze, and you should be able to see that it's being crimped together properly. Now here's a trick that I learned. If the crimp stays on like that, you know you did it right. Okay? So we got a nice crimp, we got a nice loop to hook into our main line. So the next thing we're going to create here is we're going to take an anti-tangle sleeve. And I'm just doing this beforehand, so I don't need any baiting needle to slide this down. I'm going to slide that right through. And there you go. Got my anti-tangle sleeve on. It is a pretty stiff material, but once again, it's always nice to have an anti-tangle sleeve on. Next thing I want to do here is go ahead and start the other end. We'll snip this again to make it easier to get that barrel or that crimp right through. There we go. And at this point, I'm also going to add a tungsten bead to counterbalance my pop-up, especially for that Ronnie rig. So we'll slide that tungsten bead through. Okay. Now we can start on the hook link or the actual hook. So in the first part, we already created this, so it's a little bit easier, ready to go. Slide that in there, or actually let me get a crimp there first. Get another double barrel crimp, 0.6 millimeters. Slide through the first barrel. Put the hook link on. And once again, you're going to slide that through the second barrel to close it off. There you go. Make a nice and little loop there. Take your crimper tool and then make sure we crimp down exactly. So once again, it's a small crimp, 0.6 millimeters. Make sure it's nice and lined up. Give it a nice squeeze. Make sure it's nice and locked in there. And once again, it's in there. Okay. So we've got our completed Ronnie rig. Okay. Now what do I do here? I'll take the bead and I'll slide it over. And I'll make sure that the bead goes over that little crimp. And in order for me to do that, I've got to use some strength here. So I'm going to go ahead and protect my fingers by putting a little soft pop-up corn so I don't stick myself. And we'll stick it right in that hook link so it doesn't hurt us. There we go. We got some protection there. And all you do is go ahead and slide that down. There you go. Okay. Your completed Ronnie rig. Take your pop-up, and as simply as putting it on a hair, like I said, it's so much easier. I'm just lazy, but this works all the time. There's your pop-up. So you're gonna see this rig with the weight and the tungsten, and it should be standing up like that. You see that the Ronnie rig is always aggressive with the Korda Boom, so it'll turn every time. So once again, we'll go ahead and show you that. Turn every time. Right in. Okay. In. And the best thing about the Ronnie rig, it'll always resets itself in the water. So that is my #1 rig and my go-to rig. Semper Carpe, everyone.